My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content.
All right, guys, welcome to Property Profits Podcast. I'm your host, Bryce Kaminsky, for Dave Dubow here. And if you've ever been thinking, oh, I can't really invest, it's not a great place to invest in my hometown, I've got Chris here on the line who's kind of defying the odds, or I guess in today's day and age, joining the herd of people investing outside of the city they're in. Chris, how are you today?
I'm doing well, and you?
Good, good. And I'm not super great with last names, so give people the whole name. Martinez?
Yes, Martinez.
Perfect, perfect. And so I really like to start the top here with, how did you get started in real estate? And ultimately, what got you addicted to real estate? Because we're all a little bit crazy and addicted to be in this thing in the first place. So how'd you get started and why'd you stick around?
At first, my grandpa owned multiple properties here in the Denver area, some restaurants, a bar, different things like that. And I grew up in California, didn't think much of it. Then I work with I'm a deputy sheriff here in the Denver area. So I was lucky enough to do some meetings on wellness, and I gravitated towards that for a little bit and got my wellness coaching certificate, just helping deputies out any way I can, because there's a lot of need for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then with that, I got into finance for that part of it, for the wellness part. And then my wife had major surgery 4 years ago, and I've been reading a ton of books, somewhere over 150 over the last 4 years, and then podcasts and stuff like that. And I ended up buying a property in Kansas City, Missouri, treating it like a business. And I've never even been to Kansas City. I'm lucky enough, being a deputy, I get to do extraditions and go all over the United States, but I haven't been there yet.
So how did helping these deputies out get you connected with, I guess, real estate and finance?
To me, wellness is more than just your physical body, mental, spiritual, financial. We have a lot of people at work that are making really good money.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, my department is not really well ran, and we're forced to work overtime. I can't remember now, but I do about 12 hours to 20 hours a week, mandatory, and I've been there 26 years. I
So
shouldn't
it's like
have to be
50
doing
hours, 60 hours a week, every week.
Yeah.
But I mean, overtime's nice, but not mandatory overtime. Like, overtime's supposed to be the thing where you're like, hey man, can I get some of that overtime? But now it's like, hey man, are you doing your overtime? It's like, well, why don't you just, find some more people so that we can all live a little bit better? So how does the finances play into the wellness and ultimately lead you to real estate?
I just, by reading those books and just being intrigued by the money aspect of it, or the financial aspect, and doing all my extraditions, me and one of my friends wanted to do it together. He's a little scared, and reading Rich Dad Poor Dad and treating it like a business, not being in there hands-on and doing everything myself. Again, I haven't been to Kansas City, so
well, it probably helps having your inability to actually touch it. Now, when you say finances with the deputies, is it that the overtime has these guys with like some money kicking around, they want to do something with it instead of just going and buying a new truck or a new toy?
Some of them are doing something with it. There's a lot that are buying $70,000, $80,000 trucks, Maseratis, different things like that.
Well, it sounds like it's the job to be at. If these guys are getting Maseratis, that overtime sounding a little bit better. But I mean, mandatory still ain't the best. So these guys have this extra money. You guys are traveling around. Maybe you and paint me the picture. How does that conversation start? You guys are going out to do an extradition and you're like, maybe it's a 2-hour drive, maybe it's a flight somewhere. How far do you go with that business that you're in with the sheriff's department that you've got this time to read and think about these things?
Um, I can go anywhere in the United States with the extraditions, but it's about 45 minutes each way from work. So that's why I've been listening to podcasts or reading whenever I can,
Yeah.
however I can. And that's just
The
how I
rolling
started.
university. Yeah, the rolling university. So
Yeah.
rich dad, poor dad gets in your ear and you're thinking, I'm gonna make a business out of it. Why Kansas City, right? You said Kansas City, right?
Yeah, Kansas City, Missouri, because like reading David Green's book, the Burr book, and stuff like that, and dialing in on something where I can get the 1% rule, and
Mm-hmm.
just looking up all kinds of data and city-data.com and finding neighborhoods and bigger
Tell
pockets.
people,
That's
yeah, for the people at home that might not know what the 1% rule is, just give them the short version so they can get excited about it.
So like me with my property in Kansas City, I bought it for $130,000
Mm-hmm.
and the rent was 1,300. It's gone up since, but that's 1% of the
Yeah, so
purchase price.
1% of the purchase price, that allows you to, from my understanding, and that I follow that 1% rule as well. It just it's kind of like a no-brainer way of saying everything it's going to cost to run this thing. And
Yep.
you might even make some money at 1% is usually a good ratio. Now, very hard to find up here in Canada because our real estate is kind of inflated, but you've got that property in Kansas City. Do you have any plans to expand or buy more in Kansas City, or do you want to, buy closer to home or even further from home?
Absolutely want to buy Kansas City. My ultimate goal is to buy a house in California to go
Mm-hmm.
visit for the, whatever amount of time. But in Kansas City, I'm getting deals sent to me all the time. I
Yeah.
don't have a lot of time. Like I said, my wife had major surgery and she is she doesn't work very much. She's not
Right.
able to, and so I'm trying to help and do as much as I can at home and at work
Mm-hmm.
to help her out. But now I'm just trying to see if anybody wants to partner up at work and any
So you're
contacts that
starting
I
into
know.
that capital raising phase of your career. Because did you self finance that first one?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and offline we were talking. This is kind of an interesting thing that I think people at home should know about. Tell me about it because you've now in that whole financial journey, because these guys have, I guess, this extra money. You yourself are participating with that extra money, and you're thinking life insurance policies in which you can use to buy assets. Tell the people at home about that.
Yeah. So again, on my journey and everything, reading books and podcasts, I learned you can buy properties with life insurance policies, and it completely intrigued me and pissed me off all at the same time because no one teaches us, no one tells us anything. Again, back with my department, we don't get taught anything or how to
There's no
do
financial
anything.
education there. So
Yeah,
you're
well,
like
they're
the guy,
scared.
who's the financial education leader in the detachment then?
Not really, but I put my money where my mouth is. I was talking about real estate. I went and did it. I talked about the life insurance. I went and got my life license, and I'm about to go get my health license also. But I couldn't believe that you can have something sitting there that you're going to be putting in money anyways. I
Yeah.
have two policies myself, going to get a third one. And like, had I known what I know now, I would have bought a policy before I bought my house in Kansas City, sorry. And that $24,000 or whatever it was down would still be making me money. It
Yeah.
technically still making me money in the property, but I would be making money on both ends.
Yeah, you could like triple it because you're going to get equity down, you're down your payment against principal from your tenant. You're going to get a little bit of cash flow from buying at the 1% rule, and your investment that you use to buy the property would still be in your policy. making money. So tell me about the kind of day-to-day operations for someone who is, you're watching the household, because my condolences on the wife. Hopefully she's doing better every day. But sometimes we have to step up. And how are you balancing the work, the home, and also this, I'm not going to call it a side hustle, because ultimately it's wealth generation. So how are you balancing all three of those effectively?
It's pretty difficult. I'm required to work a bunch of overtime, so I'm working
Hmm.
10 to 16 hours every day. Sometimes on my weekends, I get 3 days off a week. Sometimes I have to do training. Sometimes I have to do mandatory overtime then. But anytime I get home, I try and let her. I believe in 50-50 parenting, and I try and take over as much as I can at that point. And on the weekends, I try and take as much.
Yeah, you got to
Um,
take that weight off of them, because it's only when you watch them all Saturday. I'm a big believer in that too. We got to make sure that we balance. The other thing as a man too is you're working 10, 16 hours a day. There's likely days you don't even see them. You're up before they are up,
yep,
and you're in bed before they're in bed before you even think about going home. So those days are really important to kind of, balance it out. But certainly you feel the the challenge of the mother when you watch them all day. Like, okay, I get it. It is a job. I always
oh
say,
yeah,
uh, a wife's stay-at-home wife. Let's say she's a stay-at-home watching the kids. It's probably an $80,000 a year job if you had to pay someone to do the same thing, and they're on all day. So good for you
it's a
to for,
difficult
for
job.
stepping in. So is it? What's the pro tip for the people at home? Is it scheduling? Is it discipline? Is it what's the thing that you would say allows you to do all of these things effectively?
For me personally, it's just this is what I have to do. I
Hmm.
love my family. I do everything for my family that I can, and I I wouldn't trade it for the world. But now I know, like, life insurance policies, what they can do and stuff like that. I wouldn't be working right now had I done it 15 years ago.
Well, we still got a little bit of tread left on our tires here. You don't look like you're at the end of service yet. So, there's still 15 more years for you to really take that off. So, is your plan right now to, because I know with, any sort of government agency, or even like, in Manitoba, it'd be like a provincial or whatever, there's pension requirements and time spent and things like that. Like, do you plan to exit? Do you have an exit plan? And how does real estate and this life insurance policy and real estate together, how does that all play together with some sort of exit strategy for you?
For me, we have the rule of 75 for my pension. So it's the years and my age, which I just reached this last June. So I can technically retire, but I can't collect anything from my retirement plan.
Hmm.
Um,
Until
and
which age?
55, so I got 6 more years before that happens.
Okay, so you're still so you must have started young then.
I was
And
22.
yeah, so um it's always crazy because my grandfather, he started young. He retired at 55 with it's not, he wasn't a sheriff, he worked for Canada Post, but the government agencies, they do give you that composition, and then they start paying you out, but only at 55. So how are you planning to work it out then to 55, or what's your plan as far as your finances between here and there?
If I go to 55, I will make more than my salary with
Mm-hmm.
my pension plus what I've done with my 457 and eventually Social Security. So I've done well with all of that. I don't have to work at all, but I do want to for my wife. For she's going to need healthcare for the rest of her. Well, we all need healthcare, but she has certain needs that will have to be done. And my two younger kids are pretty young still, so they're going to need it. So I don't mind if I have to work. I just don't want to work in law enforcement anymore, unless somehow I sell a ton of policies, then I can go at any time. But with the real estate, I want to at minimum 5 more houses in the next
Between
five
now and
years.
50, yeah, between now and 55. So you have the one property now, and
Yeah,
you have a plan to get one a year for the next 5 or 6 years going
yep.
forward here. So tell me about the next 3 years, and or let's look at the window, because some people are younger, some people are older. They don't have a set like 55, I can actually retire and get paid. So in that window, let's set that frame. How do you plan to execute that plan of 5 more? What's your strategy, if you can let people know kind of how they could maybe follow and do the same?
For me, I'm going to open up another life insurance policy. I'm going to get that funded and buy another property in Kansas City, unless I can talk to some of my friends or some new people that I know or find out
Mm-hmm.
about, and we start partnering up because we can scale a lot of things quickly in like Kansas City or some of the other places. And again,
Yeah.
I'm lucky enough that I do extraditions. I can be multiple places a year and see all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. If you're on any of the American wholesaling lists like I am, it's Florida, 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 Kansas City, Missouri, the middle. I guess you'd call it those flyover states, but the cash flow is really found in these positions. Maybe not so much in Florida as people are migrating there in mass, but there's definitely an ability within the United States, being such a big place, that you can get that 1% rule every day. And it really just does come down to the financing. So, what's holding you back so far as bringing partners in? Is it a composition of maybe you don't know the right people, or maybe you haven't even thought about approaching those people yet?
Most of it is the people I do know. Some of them do have money to invest.
Mm-hmm.
They're just scared. And
Yeah.
just, I was scared myself. I was like,
Yeah.
holy Lord.
Well,
And
they
one,
likely own their own property, but telling someone to buy a house out of state and and hope it's still standing next year, that takes a certain amount of courage, I would say. Now, do you have property management on that thing?
I do.
Yeah, that was what I was gonna say. Is some people, they remotely manage their property, but you know, would you consider that? Would you say that's good advice for someone to like self-manage out of state?
Some people are a lot more personable and more willing to do background checks, all that stuff. I'm not willing to do that.
Yeah, it's worth
So
it's
it
worth
it's a
the
lot of work.
exchange.
It's definitely, and then like if I were to buy a property here in the Denver area,
Hmm.
I don't want to know who the tenants really are because I don't want to know that I've encountered them.
Now you're on the computer being like, who is this person?
Yes.
Extradition. I guess I'm not renting to these people. So,
Yeah.
yeah, separation of the owner and the tenant. I remember when my mentor, we actually would work in the lower part of this duplex that he originally purchased, and for years they had no idea he was the owner. We just completely said, oh yeah, talk to property management, and we were literally living like above these people for
Yep.
years. So um if people want to get a hold of you and they want to know more about maybe investing with you, or certainly to pick your brain on this life insurance policy, because when you put the money directly into real estate, you put it into an investment policy of itself, which is the property. But if you can double tap that, why not? Right. So if
I
people want to
agree.
find, if people want to find you, Chris, what's the number one way that they can reach you?
Probably Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
997 CMART, CMART.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my tag or whatever. And it's the same with my Gmail.
Okay. Perfect. So they can reach out to you, and yeah, I mean, time flies when you're having fun. It's very interesting. I didn't know that they were so understaffed would
We
be
are
the
severely
thing.
understaffed.
Well, don't tell the people that you're looking for you're understaffed, but just remember, guys, if you're also looking for a career, would you suggest that that's a career people would consider? you can say no, as this is a real estate podcast, right?
no, no, I understand. Some people really enjoy it. I loved my job the first 10 to 15 years. It's completely different politically, and our administration is a lot different now.
Yeah,
But
things change with the tide, right? So if you're
yeah,
into that, check it out. Sounds like they need more people. And Chris, I really appreciated having you on the show.
thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
Okay, guys, we'll see you on the next episode.
Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewyou.com. Now at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.